Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k video. So before I start this video, as always I want to say a super huge thank you to Agent McKee for sending me these really cool pictures. From what I can understand, these are pictures of his squat army, Imperial Guard squat army. Absolutely fantastic. Various dwarves from different companies. I can see some Mantic dwarves in there. I can see some of the Games Workshop ones. Those vehicles you've got absolutely fantastic. I love that converted Valkyrie, so it's a helicopter. That's awesome. I've seen that conversion before, but I really like your take on it. I love the massive demolisher cannon things. I think are they demolishers or are they some sort of Forge World thing? And I really like the buggies, like the transports. I don't know what they are. They're Tauroxes, but they've got I can see some parts in there which look like Puppets War for the turret, for the assault cannon turret. I don't know. Yeah, I'd really appreciate if you could get back to me and tell me what parts are used in this army, because it's an absolutely fantastic, beautiful looking army. It's really cool. That dreadnought thing looks amazing. Those mortar cannon things look amazing. So yeah, if you could just give me some more detail on that, Agent, that'd be absolutely fantastic. So without further ado, let's crack on with the video. Trying to keep these ones short. We're going to be talking about this concept of the evolution of tournaments. So I've been doing sort of competitive play for 7 or 8 years now. And I first got into it when I was in my first or second year of university, which is about 7 years ago. And the reason I got into it was I sort of reconnected with my brother, because he'd gone to uni and we sort of lost contact. Then I'd gone to sort of uni and I'd lost contact. We sort of got back into contact, and I'd got back into Warhammer after not playing it for several years, and then he dug out his old Tau army, and then we started getting back into playing 40k against each other. We both missed a lot of 5th edition. I caught the end of 5th edition. He completely missed sort of 5th edition. And then we got back into it around 6th edition, and we started going to the Scythe and Teacup, which is now Critical Hit Games. And we would go there for pretty much every local tournament, and they were doing them on a sort of every 2-month basis. And we were going to all these local tournaments. And what we found, number one, we quickly learned how to up our own game. We quickly learned how to make our lists more efficient. Because he would take things like useless upgrades on his commanders, and I'd be taking like power weapons and stuff on my officers when they were just pointless. Both of us started off with these lofty ideas. We were never going to have flyers. We're never going to compromise ourselves. We play Oldhammer. That concept didn't really last that long because we wanted to be competitive. And so, but what you would have at those tournaments is you would have about 20 to 30% of people. I think about 20% of people there who were just there for fun. Okay, they just had their army and they weren't that bothered about being competitive, and it was just a good excuse to get loads of games in over a weekend, which is fantastic. And then you had, I'd say the majority of the players, and we're talking like 60, 70% of people who were like me and Johnny. We had our armies and we wanted to be competitive, but we had our own sort of, they were our guys. So I had Mordian Iron Guard and I was using pure infantry guard, and no one could persuade me otherwise. No one could tell me that there were other competitive options out there. I had my own concept, and I had my own morals, and I knew I could compromise those morals to get more competitive, but I wasn't really willing to do that. I wanted to win with my army. I wanted to make my army as good as it could possibly be within those limitations. So I didn't want to take tanks. I didn't want to take flyers. I didn't want to take psychers. I believe psychers were heresy. I was strict to myself, but I still wanted to win. And as it turned out, I honed my pure infantry tactics really well, and it turned out that pure infantry was the most competitive way to play guard. It just took me a lot of tournaments to figure that out. And then there were the top players, and these are only about 10% of the players, roughly. And these were ones that were super competitive. They had the best lists, okay? They were dominating the top tables. So if you had an event which had sort of 30 people at it, you would only have, which is about 15 tables, you'd have about 3 or 4 tables. Well, you'd have about 3 tables which were bottom tier players, and then you'd have about 10 tables which were all the middle tier players, and then you'd only have sort of 2 tables, maybe even 1 table, just the top table, where the best players would duke it out at the end. And it was really cool. And that's how it used to be. And then I've sort of, we went to those tournaments, we got better and better and better, and I actually ended up doing the best I've ever done at one of those local tournaments. I think, I can't remember if I came first or second. I'm going to be conservative and say I came second, and I came behind one of the best players, and I came second with my pure guard. And I realised at that point that I'd sort of transcended these local tournaments. I'd gone as far as I could go in these local tournaments. And then I started going to these big 2-day events and these team events, and I got way more competitive. And I remember the first big 2-day event I went to was a Warlords team tournament, and I got absolutely smashed. I just kept facing, at this time it was Beast Star, so you had a load of blood of Dark Elder beasts with Eldrad, and Wraith Knights were broken, and blah blah blah. And so I got absolutely smashed, and I realised that whilst I might be a big shit around the local tournaments, I was actually a relatively small pebble of poo when it came to fighting on the big scene. So I smashed. I went to loads of 2-day tournaments. For years, I literally just went to 2-day grand tournaments, playing the best I could play. I started taking Psykers, I dropped my Lehman Russes, I dropped my Flyers, and I was just taking pure infantry, and that culminated really with the big, this is all in the 6th and 7th edition, and that culminated with the big, when I went to a Warlords singles tournament with the Emperor's Shield Infantry Company, and I think I won 4 out of 6 games with Pure Infantry Imperial Guard in 7th edition, which was almost unheard of. And I'm not blowing my own trumpet there, guys, but like, I drew quite a bit of attention. I mean, I was facing some top tier lists. I faced Warcon twice. Now, for those of you that don't know what Warcon was, it was an AdMech formation in 7th edition, where if you took a bit of Scutari, a bit of AdMech, and an Imperial Knight, you got all your equipment for free. Everything was for free. So you just got an obscene amount of units with an obscene amount of equipment. And I was able to beat that twice. And I was able to beat Eldar. And I think the only game I decisively lost, was... That was it. I lost a Wolf Star. Barely. And that was a tactical... I'd made a test decision, basically. I tried something out, because I played Wolfstar loads of times, and I knew I could beat it, but I wanted to see how this new tactic would pan out, and it turned out it wasn't that good. But the only list I decisively lost was against Tau, and losing against Tau in 7th edition was just par for the course. But even then, I didn't get tabled, and I still did pretty well. It was a relatively minor loss, so I had 2 sort of minor losses and then some pretty good wins. And then 8th edition dropped. And so this is not the evolution of my tournament play, by the way. I'm just giving you some context. So 8th dropped, and I kept going to these big 2-day tournaments. But then recently, I've decided to start going to 1-day tournaments. And I've been looking at the results of 1-day tournaments and the lists and the people going to 1-day tournaments. And I've been to a couple of my own 1-day tournaments recently. And this is what I've noticed. So like I said, back in the day, you'd have about 60 to 70% of people who were mid-tier playing their own armies, and then you had about 10% of people which were 10 to 20% who were fluff players, and then you'd have about 5 to 10% who were hardcore players. Things have changed. Now, when you go to a local tournament, you have literally maybe 10% maximum of fluff players. In fact, there's no real fluff players there. Okay, there's 1 or 2, but there's no real fluff players there. And instead, the vast majority, what you have is about, we'll say 10%. And then you have about 40 to 50% of people who are playing with the best. They're still playing their army, but they're playing with the best possible combinations of their army. But then you have about 50% of players which are now running top tier lists. And now, whilst they may not be top tier players, they're running top tier net lists. And I think essentially 40k has become so popular recently. And forums like Daka Daka have become so accessible recently that it's really easy. And even my own channel, to a certain extent, is a symptom of this. It's really easy for people to go online and find all the answers they realistically need to find to run a really, really good list. And net lists are just out there, and people just pull them off the internet, and you can buy them as well. That's the thing. You see people on eBay selling, and it's called tournament list ready to go. And it's just a perfect tournament list, and you can just buy it, and you don't have to be necessarily a good player, and it'll get you off the ground running. And I think essentially this is the big thing. People, even local tournaments now are really competitive, and even the people that go to local tournaments now, they still want to have fun, but they're there to win. There's a lot more of these I want to win players at local one-day tournaments. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I think it's a little bit more intimidating for new players. I think there's a lot less. I mean, essentially what would used to happen when you went to a tournament is you would maybe get smashed in your first game, and then you spend the rest of the day just having some fun down on the lower tables. And whilst you can still do that, you can't do it to the same extent. And even, like I said, even the newbie players still have good lists. And I think it's just the ability for people to go online and play and download all this information. But it's also this big thing that a lot of internet personalities, myself included, have pushed, which is if you want to get better, you need to go to tournaments. So people are going to more and more tournaments. The tournament scene for 40k now is so much bigger than it used to be. So much bigger. I mean, I know there's been a lot of bad press around London Grand Tournament, but at the end of the day, that's still 400 people going to a UK-based tournament, which is almost unheard of. And the local tournament I went to, there was 40 people there. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Normally, back 5, 6, 7 years ago, when you went to a local tournament, if 20 people turned up, that was a good day. And it was often just the same people that would go with a few newcomers, and it was absolutely insane. So I think what essentially happened is the gap between, there used to be a big gap between, oh, you're a whacker or you're a casual player. That gap is now closed. I think there are a lot less people who are casual at all costs, and there's a lot more people who are tournament and whacker players now. People who want to win, and people now have the means and the information to do that. And I also think that there's just 40k has become so much bigger, so much more popular, and I think that's a lot of that has to do with 8th edition. I think the tournament scene in 8th edition is insanely big in comparison to what it used to be. It's absolutely massive. I think it's going to continue to grow because 8th edition is such an easy edition for people to get into and learn. The rules are so uncomplicated. When I go down to my local games workshop, because I still like to go down there, I don't often play a lot because, and this is not arrogance again, but I am a little bit above playing at the local games workshop now in terms of the skill set there. I took part in a rolling campaign that over a 3-month period, and I came first by absolutely miles. I didn't lose a game. And so I decided, and that was a bit unfair. It was just unfair on the other people. They were, because I was turning up and they were like, oh, it's the tour, and I got the reputation of being the tournament player. But anyway, I just think games, not getting off on a tangent, but 8th edition is so accessible, and people naturally want to win. People want to win. At first you're okay having fun, but people want to win. And when you've got so many people coming to the hobby and the tournament scene, and you've got so much information at people's fingertips, it just makes a natural melting pot. And not even a bad one, just a natural concoction. And I think it's good for 40k. I think it is good. It just means now that when you go to tournament, you've got to bring your fucking A game. Okay, you've just got to be prepared to bring your A game. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Tell me what you guys think. What is the local tournament scene like around your area? Am I wrong? I'd really like to hear what your guys' thoughts on this. How have the tournaments evolved in your area? So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Leave lots of comments, and as always, I'll see you guys next time.